All right, ladies and gentlemen, if we can settle down a little bit, without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you a very special guest here. Thank you for respecting our time and being here, all lovely. How many of you have really enjoyed this? I need you to make some noise because we want them to do this for free again next year, don't we? We need this. We need this, right? All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's really important that I have all of your attention because we have a special guest here today. Thank you for whispering. Thank you so much for your consideration and honoring our time. You're doing a great job. I really appreciate that you are all sitting quietly. You can tell I was a teacher. Okay. So I'd like to introduce to you a state senator from District 17, which encompasses Mililani, Macau, portions of Waikato Acres, Launani Valley, Whitmore Village. This is Senator Donovan Dela Cruz. He is the chair of the Senate Committee on Ways and Means. And prior to becoming a senator, he also served as Honolulu City Council for 8 years, serving as its chair for 3 years, being the youngest chair in the history of the council at the age of 30. Senator Dela Cruz is a graduate of the University of Oregon, where he earned a bachelor's arts in journalism and communication studies, master's in organization leadership from Argosy University. It is our profound happiness that we have such a wonderful person here today as our special guest, Hawaii Senator Donovan Dela Cruz. Are you my cousin?
Thank you. Aloha. I'm really excited to be here. So I live in Wahiawa, in the middle of Oahu. My grandparents actually worked on the pineapple fields. And so when I was a young kid, I remember seeing Dole being robust with lots of jobs, lots of people working. And like many other plantation towns, when sugar and pineapple started to decline, the economy also started to decline. So I have family in Hawaii, and when sugar left, there were no jobs that took its place. And we moved toward tourism, but then that didn't really stimulate the economy in our small plantation towns. And so part of this effort is to try to see how we can get our towns all across the state reinvigorated, re-energized, especially with agriculture. And how do we do that to support some of our other state goals on food security, on making sure that the Department of Education can buy local, and that we can make sure that we provide nutritious meals to our keiki. I do want to thank all the organizers and the sponsors because I really believe that this is an extremely important event. You know, we need as many entrepreneurs as possible. You know, Hawaii's losing so many of its companies that were once locally owned, right? We don't own Hawaiian Airlines. We don't own the banks. We don't own the hotels. You know, so we need all of you to start your companies and build your companies so we have more companies owned by our local residents, hiring local residents, and really giving back to our community. So I don't think you may realize, and maybe you do, how important what you're about to do is for Hawaii, and making sure that we keep Hawaii economically sound, and that we can reverse the brain drain, and that we can revitalize our small communities. So I really appreciate all of your commitment to making sure that that's what's going to happen. Okay, next. Okay, so what are regional kitchens? What regional kitchens are what Zippy's does. Zippy's has a commercial kitchen, and so it has 22 restaurants, and all the food is aggregated and brought to Waipio Gentry. I don't know how many people know where Waipio Gentry Costco is on Oahu. There, Zippy's has its only centralized kitchen right there. Actually, now it has a second one in Vegas. So Zippy's had about, let's say, I think it was about 14 restaurants. And when they opened their central kitchen, they opened a few more, and they totaled 22. So now they buy local beef. All the local beef goes to Waipio, right? They buy chicken, and all the food goes to the central kitchen. And that's where it's prepped. That's where it's oftentimes cooked. And then it's packed. It's it's stored, and then it's distributed to all its restaurants. So the restaurants usually do finished cooking or reheating. So that's why no matter which Zippy's you go to, the food should taste the same. The taste is consistent. But it also allows us to make sure that there's consistency, that there's one place for farmers to go and send their produce, and it allows farmers to aggregate. So right now what DOE does is it buys a lot from the mainland. We import quite a bit. And so the growing, the processing, the packing, and then the distribution, all are on the mainland, and it has to come here. What we want to try to do is supplant that. And we want to try to grow as much local, process local, pack local, and distribute local. Yeah. Okay, next. Okay, so regional kitchens are going to be shared facilities. So the DOE is looking now at least several on each island. So Kauai may have one. Maui's going to have one for Central Maui, and they're looking at 3 standalone kitchens, 1 Molokai, 1 Lanai, and 1 Hana. So they'll be smaller, but the larger regional kitchen will be in Central Maui. And that's to supply high schools, middle schools, elementary schools, all one kitchen. Okay, next. So this is what I was talking about, right? We export our dollars, and we import almost 57,000 pounds of beef. We import about 64,000 of pork, and we import about 18,000 pounds of liquid egg to make sure that the Department of Education has enough food to feed its students. Okay, next. So the first kitchen is going to be in Central Oahu. So there's 20 schools in Mililani, Lelahua, Wailua, and the one regional kitchen is going to supply all of those. So Oahu is looking at 2 regional kitchens. Oahu has about 105 students on the island. Each kitchen is going to be built to produce enough food for 60,000 students. And so that's a little bit more than the 105, and I'll explain a little bit later why. So there's monies for the first regional kitchen. Construction is supposed to be completed by March 27. Next. Okay, so you can see here the student count for all the different complexes throughout the state. So it ends up being about roughly 155,000 students. Now this doesn't even include charter schools or private schools. So you could add more, that number can get even higher. Next. So this is already, this slide has been updated by the department. So like I mentioned, Kauai's looking at 1, Oahu's looking at 2, Maui's looking at 1 regional and 3 standalones, and the Big Island's looking at 2. Next. So this is not a new idea. school districts around the nation are already doing this. And so we went to go visit different kitchens in Tacoma, in Sacramento, and then we brought as many people as we could to the Zippy's kitchen in Waipio so that they could see what we're doing locally. And so people from Maui actually joined us. Louis joined us in Tacoma to go and see what they're doing. And you can see here the Tacoma kitchen, Bethel district, that's 43,000 students, so 43,000 meals. So what Bethel does is a little interesting. They supply the meals for all the schools, but they also sell meals to private schools who don't have kitchens. Next. Okay, so this is Zippy's kitchen. It's 7,000 square feet. The bakery is 2,000 square feet, and it's about 180 to 200 people. So as I mentioned, this is not to supplant the cafeteria workers. Okay, we're already taking imported food and just recooking or heating and finish cooking at the cafeterias. What we're trying to supplant is the agricultural production and the cooking that's happening on the mainland and being sent here. Next. So this line is really important right in the middle because we've been trying to pressure DOE for the longest time to buy more local, buy from our local farmers. Except that's not something that DOE is equipped to do. Because they're not going to come to the legislature and say, oh, by the way, we need to buy more ag land. We need to buy more water infrastructure. We need more warehouse space. DOE, that's not what they do. So if you look at the line, above the line is DOE. So they'll purchase the food, they'll cook the food, they'll distribute the food, they'll serve the food. Below the line are going to be the Agribusiness Development Corporation, which is a state agency, and the Department of Ag. And these are all the different commodities, and this is not a full list, of what we believe we can scale up in Hawaii so that the department can buy these products at the regional kitchen. Okay, next. So there's a process right now with menu production, but the menu production is being handled by KCC, Culinary Institute of the Pacific, and the Culinary Institute of America. They're trying to work on this now. But what they're also trying to do is making sure that the menu is based on local commodities. So it's not going to be, oh, what's the menu we want, and then we still got to import. It has to be what's the menu that we can create that meets the USDA regulation, but at the same time is really focused on local commodities. And you can see here, we're even looking at native plants that we can scale up and incorporate into our menu. Ho'io and pia. Pia is like haupia, and ho'io is a fern, right? We eat warabi if you eat warabi. Next. So these are different meals already using native plants, edible native plants. So the more we can incorporate not just ag production, but native plants that we really can scale up into ag production, then we could, that really makes us unique, and it helps ensure that our kids are culturally tied to what we serve them to. Next. Okay, going back to this. So each individual blocks on the bottom, they have their charts of their own. And because what we're going to do is, for instance, with pork, where the state is funding and building a processing facility. So it'll be for a slaughterhouse and processing. So the processing means, okay, we're going to make sure we have bacon, pork chop, because you need to process. You can't just slaughter, you have to process. There's also going to be cold storage and dry storage at that facility. The department right now is working with 5 to 6 farmers on the Waianae Coast who all have hog farms. And so we're looking at the shared facility so that all those hog farmers have some place to slaughter and process their food, what they grow. Right now, there's no slaughterhouse. So people have to buy the whole hog and they have to butcher it themselves. So by doing this, the farmers now can scale up hog production because they know that someone's going to buy it. And now, according to College of Tropical Ag, they believe that we can actually eliminate hog imports by making sure that we build a small animal slaughterhouse. Okay, that's in there. Okay, next. So this is what it would look like. It's a shared facility, right? And it doesn't matter what the commodity is. It could be rice, which is starting to be grown on Kauai. It could be poi. It could be lettuce. Whatever the shared facility has to be focused on the commodity. Where are these facilities going to get built? They're going to get built where we know that the commodity's microclimate grows that particular crop so that we can scale up. And it's a group of farmers. It could be a co-op. It could be just farmers that are going to sell their produce directly to the shared facility or process it. But this is a ceiling or a roadblock because farmers right now don't have the kind of processing equipment. So they don't have to take that kind of risk by themselves. Okay, next. So as we look at each commodity, it would be the same diagram throughout the state depending on the commodity. So if it's going to be pork or liquid eggs, which is the yellow, right now that's another facility that we're trying to fund, is a egg breaking facility. So I'm not sure if people realize not every egg is going to be A grade. And so there's quite a bit. There's at least 25% that's not A grade. And most of those eggs are normally on the mainland. They're normally taken to an egg cracking facility where there's a processing line that cracks it and puts it, mixes it, and puts it either into a 5-gallon bucket or small cartons that you end up buying at the market. Right now, we import all of that. So we should be doing our own egg breaking facility, which will allow farmers to sell their off grades and their seconds. Okay, next. And so it's about aggregation. Now the farmers have consistent contracts. There's financing because of the fact that they'll have a contract with the department, so that they know now they can get a loan. And then there's forward planting contracts, so they can grow what they know the DOE is going to buy. Next. Okay, so these are things that we're looking at for this particular commodity, right? The small animal slaughterhouse, processing, cold storage, and then the economic benefit for scaling up local pork. So I don't know how many people have gone to any of these hog farms. Okay, so if you go to any of those hog farms on the Waianae coast, they were at one point all dairy farms. So when there's maybe about only 1 to 5% of the actual property is used for raising hogs. The rest is just unused dairy equipment for dairy cows. So now, knowing that we're going to do this, one of the things that we can provide, we had a bill last year, was a one-time tax credit for those farmers to retrofit all the dairy equipment into hog farming equipment so that they can scale up. And then what this also allows us to do is now for the complex of Nanakuli and Waianae, their ag classes can teach husbandry. Because as we scale up ag, what's going to be the pipeline for our workforce? And so now when you actually take an ag class, you can say, oh, I know what I'm going to end up in this industry. Next. So this would be the model for distribution. The slaughterhouse would be located in Kūlia, but the product would be distributed to all the different regional kitchens. So you can kind of see the method of what this is trying to accomplish. Okay, next. See, it would be too difficult for that slaughterhouse to have to go and deliver to every school. That's just not going to work. And then this is the potential for rice, right? We need milling machines, we need dry storage capacity. It would be another centralized model except on Kauai. And then we could work with those complexes on workforce development. Next. So the model of distribution would be the facility on Kauai but then the distribution would be to all the different islands, and then Kauai you would just drive it. Next. And so the lettuce and fruits and vegetables, that's a slightly different model because each island may be able to grow its own produce. So in that case, next, it would just be within each island. There would be no shipping. Okay, next. Okay, so this is a model that Lou and I went to go see when we went to Bethel. So Suquamish Seafoods, that's a tribally owned enterprise. So what the tribe does is it has fishing rights to ancestral lands. And it ensures that it buys all the fishing equipment. It has a processing house, or not a slaughterhouse, but its own processing center for all the produce that's collected, or fish that's collected. And it does all the training for any tribal member that wants to learn how to fish. So you get the training on how to fish, then you can use the tribal equipment to go and fish, and then you sell your fish back to the tribe, and it processes it. So it aggregates all the fish that gets sold to it from all the different tribal members. So they do gooey duck, oysters, clam, and other seafood. And then they sell it to all the restaurants in the Tacoma, Seattle area, and they also export to China. So this is a model that we can do at probably DHHL homesteads, where a specific homestead could say, we're going to grow lettuce, right? We have College of Tropical Ag, we have Maui College. It could help with the job training, it could help with research. DHHL or OHA or the Department of Ag or ADC can help with funding the shared facility. And then now you have an economic model specifically for that homestead. And it's very similar to what New Zealand does with kiwi. The tribe owns lands, they all farm kiwi, they sell it to Zespri. So when we went to Suquamish Seafoods, DHHL and OHA also joined us so that they could see the model. Okay, next. So it begins and ends with DOE because DOE has the students, right? Then those students would go to community colleges, especially to learn about their ag workforce development skills. Then they get into production, and then the production goes into the tolling facility. And then from the tolling facility, it goes to the kitchen, and then the meals are sold back to DOE. Okay, next. But it's not just DOE. Who's the middle? The middle is going to be community college, right? So Leeward has an ag program. Department of Ag has loans and grants to farmers, and they regulate ag. Department of Ag and College of Tropical Ag, they're right now doing a commodity mapping of which commodities grow the best throughout the state based on the microclimate. College of Tropical Ag can provide extension agents to help those farmers. DBED can help because we're also doing value added, and we can take the off grades. ADC right now is trying to acquire land, build infrastructure, and the shared facilities. And Department of Transportation is already aware of what we're trying to do, so they're looking at how that would affect harbors and distribution. And there are a few other departments also not included, like Department of Health. Next. So as you scale up commodities, you also scale up seconds and off grades. So then that allows more entrepreneurs to be able to take those seconds and off grades for their business. Next. So right now with the Food Innovation Network, we have Leeward Community College, and we have Maui College with their Food Innovation Center. And we funded equipment for Kauai Community College and Palamanui Community College. So this is a statewide effort in trying to get more entrepreneurs doing value added so they can buy seconds and off grades from farmers, which will help farmers. Next. And so when you look at the distribution from the shared facilities, it could be pork, it could be rice, it could be lettuce, and you were just going to keep adding the different commodities, and then this would end up looking like spaghetti to some extent, because different commodities are going to be grown throughout different regions of the state. So that allows small communities who were once sugar and pineapple to hopefully be part of this plan. Their commodity is going to be based on the microclimate. Next. So this is what it would end up looking like, right? Where we have the original circle in the middle, but because we are going to scale up off-grade or scale up production, and then there's more off-grades, from the production, the off-grades go to the Food and Product Innovation Network. From the tolling facility, whatever the regional kitchen does not buy, now it can go to hotels and restaurants. And at the regional kitchen level, whatever it produces can also, besides DOE, it can also go to our correctional facilities, it can go to our state hospitals, and then we now have a system for disaster and emergency response, because meals can be made quickly. Next. Oh, was that the last one? So this supports making sure that we have local infrastructure, workforce capacity, the shared facilities, and it helps scale up local ags. But what we're doing is we're leveraging the state's purchasing power. So instead of purchasing from the mainland, we're trying to purchase locally. But it has to work in sync. DOE can't do it by itself. It needs the other agencies to play its part so that there's a system. It now has to be an ecosystem for this to get accomplished. And then our kids get better nutritious food. Next. So these are all the different agencies and some of the farmers that are already trying to help with what we're trying to accomplish. Next. Oh, that's it. Okay, and there was one more picture. Oh, there, this one. So you can see here that when we took the delegation, it was people from the Farm Bureau, it was Department of Ag, DOE, Ag Foundation. We even brought, I think that HSTA, ADC, DBED, College of Tropical Ag, community colleges. You know, we tried to bring as many of the agencies as possible that we know are going to be part of this effort. And so Sunday, actually, some of us are going to the Denver kitchen. So they actually serve meals within a 500-mile radius. And then we're going to go see a small animal slaughterhouse, and then we're also going to see a Denver example of kauhale. So we leave Sunday night and we get back Tuesday. So we're only going to be there on Monday. So this is an opportunity not just for local farmers, for the state, but local entrepreneurs as well. And then the more we can get locally owned companies that hire local people, then we can keep money in Hawaii and we can reverse the brain drain. So thank you guys all for your time.
Thank you very much. I can do 2 questions. Is there anyone here who has any questions for Senator? Hand raised. Here you go. Just 1 question, please.
Any thought to including a local slaughterhouse for axis deer for production of venison here on Maui?
Yeah.
Solve 2 problems.
No, yeah, so there actually has been quite a bit discussion at the Capitol about that, because, and Lou and I have talked about this for quite some time, about not just the meat component, but the leather component. You know, tanning. I mean, we could make a whole bunch of Hawaii-made leather goods. It's, you know, we got to get more support, I think, from different players to get there. But there is a will from many to try to move in that direction, because it's, like I mentioned, it's the meat component, because I think you have Maui Nui venison. They've already showed us what they can do, but a lot of big money is going to be made also in the leather goods. And then New Zealand also does something similar. They have a similar system And what they do is they make dog treats from some of the hooves and the antlers. So same thing when we do the slaughterhouse, we can make dog treats out of the pig ears.
I have one last question. Coming up this way. Sorry, we only have room for one. She's on her way up. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Dela Cruz. It's great to have you here. What is the timeline that you're hoping to have a regional facility here on Maui? I mean, there's many food producers here, and I would love to be a part of that and support it. So what kind of timeline are we looking at? Mahalo.
So right now, the Department of Education, they're building capacity. We actually have staff now committed to what we're trying to achieve. They're going to have to present something to the legislature as far as budget. So the first kitchen was legislatively driven, right? We added that money to the budget, and that was about $131 million. And right now we're looking at the second kitchen and purchasing 10 acres next to the slaughterhouse for the second regional kitchen on Oahu. So once the department actually identifies either if we can have state land for it or if we have to buy land for it, then we can talk about design and construction. I mean, it's not that, we're pushing them as much as we can, but we're not waiting on the commodities part, you know, because it's two different agencies. But hopefully within the next several months, College of Tropical Ag and DBED will be done with the commodity report. Because the shared facilities need to be built around this, you know, it's all chicken and egging, no pun intended, about making sure that the shared facilities and the kitchens are all kind of going to be up and running around the same time. The other component that's not on this slide is the retrofit of the schools. Because when Lou and I went to see the Bethel kitchen, you have to make sure that not the containers, but the shelving has to be able to go onto the truck. And then when you leave the truck at the school, it now needs cold storage at the school. And then you need to retrofit some of the cooking equipment to more like convy ovens so that they can do the finish cooking or reheat. And so it's gonna take some time, but you know, I feel like we're finally moving in some direction. But you can expedite the kitchen because, you know, legislatively, if legislators want to make that their priority in the state budget, then that can also that can probably be a faster way.
Do you have any final words for our Maui businesses?
I mean, you have a good brand already, right? Made in Maui. I mean, most other places don't even have that. And they're going to have to really struggle to get the branding. So now what we have to do is make sure that we build capacity with entrepreneurs, and which is what Maui's invested in. But it can't end here. You know, what we're going to need is additional facility, which Karen and I were talking about. In New Zealand, they have if you have time, go look this up. It's called the Food Bowl. It's the Food Bowl. So when we started trying to plan out, and there's a whole different slide on the Food Innovation Network. But when we started talking about food manufacturing, there's two models. There's the US model, generally speaking, that these food innovation centers are at colleges, right? OSU has one, Rutgers has one, Arkansas has one, Nebraska has one. A lot of schools who generally have some ag, they have a food innovation center like here at Maui College. So we went to go visit all of those. But New Zealand has a different model. Their model is strictly for existing entrepreneurs. So that kitchen looks very different, or that center looks very different. When you go to, if you look it up, the Food Bowl, the one in Auckland, it'll look like a big warehouse. It's probably about 30,000 square feet, and there's 4 empty suites in it. 4 suites, but all the infrastructure is in there, and it's plug and play. So if she goes in and she goes, I'm making cookies, I want to rent it for 2 weeks, I want to do food production and package. What they do is they go to the warehouse, they bring in all the equipment she's going to need, plug it in. She leases the space for 2 weeks. When she's done, they unplug it, they clean it, they store it. And then I come in and I say, okay, I need that suite for rum. Then they bring in the rum equipment, they plug it in, and the packaging. And then when I'm done, they unplug it and they clean it and store it. So they have 4 suites like that. And most entrepreneurs are there for only about 2 years. Because by the time 2 years is done, they have enough revenue to buy their own equipment and have their own warehouse. And so you have to look at this continuum, right? Because if not, a lot of you are going to reach a ceiling. And you're going to be like, well, I can't do this in Maui anymore. I'm going to either have to move to Oahu, which has no warehouse space, or now I got to move to the mainland, or I got to do my manufacturing in Taiwan. You're going to get all these different gaps all of a sudden, which, you know, we're not really talking about. And so even giving you a grant for equipment, you're still going to reach a ceiling. So the more we can do in these shared facilities, even like the food bowl model, then the next step after the food bowl model would be that the state would have to ensure that we buy warehouse space. Because what happens when you look at the continuum, you're here at the Food Innovation Center, then you go to the food bowl for a couple years, then you get warehouse space. And then you can make sure that you can stay on Maui and have your production facility here and hire local. And now we're doing regional kitchens, you have more commodities to buy from. So it's a lot of macro ecosystem to make sure that we can get it done. We keep going back to the lowest common denominator. I need this equipment. But we really got to look at the big picture and look at the system. You know, so we have to identify lands that we can build warehouse space. We have to look for a facility so we can do a food bowl. You know, we have to provide whatever resources for capacity building here at the Innovation Center. So it helps all of you move from one step to the next. If not, it's going to be you're at the Food Innovation Center and then bye, see you. Okay, who wants that? Okay, that's not what I want, because my whole thing again was talk about regional economic development in our rural communities or communities all across the state with local ownership, hiring local people. So we have to do the whole continuum and the whole ecosystem to ensure that that happens. So it's going to take all of us. So if you know of land that you think that's going to be good for warehouse space. So we have in Whitmore, the regional kitchen is going to be located. That's the one that got fully funded. That's the one legislature funded by 100%. But it's also funding 2 of the largest HPP machines, and it's going to fund a food bowl. And then there's about 1 mile worth of warehouse space that's also going to get developed. So we're looking at this continuum of what happens next. It just can't be one building. And it's great that we did the Food Innovation Center here, right? But we can't rest on our laurels. There's more to be done so that we can do more for the whole system. And the proof is in the pudding. I mean, New Zealand has increased their F&B exports dramatically by just doing food bowls. It's just gone up. Netherlands is one of the smallest countries in the world, but it's the second largest exporter in the world. So we can overpunch our weight if we're strategic, if we make the right investments, and if we're committed to it. But we have to do that. You know, we can't have the attitude, well, we're Hawaii, so we don't do that. You know, we have to be like, no, we're Hawaii. We're going to do it. We're going to be the best. So you have to, but it's going to take all of us.
Thank you. Let's give a round of applause for Hawaii State Senator Donovan Dela Cruz. Thank you so much for flying in and taking the time to be here. I know he said this is really important for him to be part of this because he really believes in all of us to make a difference here in Maui and Hawaii.